It is our pleasure to welcome Tom Izzo into the conversation with the whole group here. Tom, I put together everyone who's devastated this morning. Duke, you just beat them, and Michigan, you're our rival. So I've got everybody in the house. And let's just start with this team, Tom, because Jalen made the point this morning that he thinks your team thrives on disrespect, that when the season starts, people don't put your team there with the favorites, and then you're a 2 seed after all your team accomplished this year. How much motivation and how significant do you think it was for your team, the way it was viewed going into this tournament?
Well, Greeny, I'm glad Laura's there because you got 2 guys I'm going to have to argue with a little bit, so that's great. But you know, I think Jalen's right on this. You know, it's not the disrespect card. I mean, listen, and I think Jay will agree. Duke, I mean, it almost is hard. You almost feel like you're the guy that beat or shot Bambi, you know. I mean, they were everybody's favorites, and rightfully so. I love Zion Williamson, not only as a player, but the way he handled himself after the game, the way Mike did. It's the class of the class. It's why they are who they are. And so, you know, we've been underdog most of my life, but probably deservingly so sometimes. And yet yesterday we found a way to win.
Coach, Cassius Winston is playing out of his mind. Obviously, Matt McQuaid played extremely well the other day. But I need to know, Seth Greenberg and I were talking about this last night. Did you draw up that play for Kenny Goins to knock down that 3-point shot? Because he played out of his mind yesterday.
Well, you know, we actually did, and it was Cassius' suggestion. I mean, I kept asking Kenny, are you going to hit a shot? You know, and it's a play that we've run, and the second option is to get Cassius a shot. So, you know, Zion had just blocked that one. I said, Kenny, pump fake him, you know. He says, Coach, he was 15 feet away from me. And I said, yeah, but the guy can get up, man. I showed you film, you know. And so that was interesting, and it was kind of ironic that we went with a senior. We went with a guy who was a walk-on, but he's been very instrumental in our whole season. And, you know how it goes. Sometimes you get lucky. We got lucky.
Coach, I talked about the fact that this team embodies an identity that reminds me of the one that you won a championship with, led by Mateen Cleaves and Mo Pete. One that you had an identity as getting up in the player's face, and we talked about on this show when you had your exchange with one of your players going back to the huddle. Is there any similarities between that team and this team for you so far?
You know, I think so, Jalen. I mean, like you said, like you guys, you know, I mean, your team, you got to have a little toughness. I think the difference with this team, with Mateen and Antonio or, you know, Andre Hudson, I mean, we were brute strength tough, you know. We were knock you on your butt tough. With this team, we're not as physically imposing, but I think the mental toughness of all the things these guys have gone through with the injuries and then just finding ways to win. Even when we got down 30-21, there was not a calmness in the huddle with me, but there sure was with Cash and McQuaid and Kenny. And I think that's where experience, you know, we all talk about experience matters, and it does matter. Jay Wright always says it's good to get old, and maybe he's right in that respect at that time of the game.
Coach, you mentioned Cassius Winston being calm in the huddle, almost giving suggestions for plays. Those are things that he's done regularly. But you've also said before, it doesn't always look pretty with him. What can you say about the way that he's played, stepping up big time on the biggest stages for you consistently?
Well, you know, even with your crew there, you line up Jalen 6'7", and, you know, can play the point. And Jay Will is, you know, a little physically stronger, even though he's not a lot bigger, but he's just physically stronger. You line Cassius up, and, you know, you say, well, he'd be good in the choir, you know. he just doesn't look as imposing, but his basketball IQ and his ability to make others around him better is really special, and I'm just lucky to have him.
Coach, you mentioned at the beginning that, you know, this season for so many people was about Duke, and I heard you say over the weekend when you were looking for someone to guard Zion, you thought maybe Khalil Mack would be a good option. Now that his season's over, you go on, but his collegiate career is over. How would you describe what he was as a player this year and what you see him doing as he goes forward?
Well, what I really appreciated is, you know, watching him with his teammates during the year. I mean, he seemed like a superstar. You know, I felt like I was blessed with Miles Bridges, a star player, you know, not to that level, but a star player who had no ego. As I watched him, Zion, and then after the game, how humble he was coming through the line and just watching his passion and his desire. I think he was great for college basketball. I think a superstar like we haven't seen before, with the humility that, you know, you'd expect out of a Mike Krzyzewski team, but let's face it, every kid's different. I just think he has it, and I could have pulled for him if we lost. I promise you that.
Coach, listen, congratulations from all of us here. Good luck this weekend. Back to Minneapolis for another Final Four and a shot at another national championship. Thank you for doing this, and good luck this week.
Good luck, Tom.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate all of you. Thank you.